So I wanted to give a little better overview of this machine now that put not a lot of hours, but we're in the 40s, 40 something hours on it. And overall, I'm really impressed with it. There's a lot of positives. There are a few negatives, I would say, with this machine, but overall, I think we definitely buy it again. I think of the things I really like about it, the angle blade, I was definitely not so sure about that. Never had one with an angle blade, but I don't think I would want one without it again. It makes it really handy when you're trying to grade out. Basically, you keep your windrow to one side, and it is pretty strong and powerful. But having a true 6-way blade would be even better, in my opinion, if it was like a true dozer blade that you had tilt and angle. The undercarriage on it is pretty stout. It's very stable. When you're over the front or the back or over the side, it's still very stable. This machine does have the optional counterweight, which I think helps with that. Obviously, I haven't run one without the optional counterweight, but I think that's something worth having. Right now, the only thing we have is the 24-inch digging bucket, which is a good size for this machine. It could definitely handle more. If you're in drier ground, it doesn't struggle with it a bit. So I think you could go to a 30, maybe even a 36-inch bucket in good ground and not have an issue with it. It has good reach, good power, all those kind of things. I do like the service ability on the machine. I think that, as you get into all these side compartments and, opening up to the engine, all that stuff is very easy to get to. That they thought that stuff out well, as far as that goes. I thought it was interesting. It has an electric fan for the condenser for the air conditioning, so it has nothing to do with the engine fan. The air conditioning is all totally self-contained up in the cab, and I'm sure that's common with all of their models. Of the things I don't like about it so much, I would say that the cab is just pretty bare bones. I think that the seat is rather lacking. I mean, you can see that the backrest of the seat is pretty short. I mean, it's really only, it's like 17-inch tall backrest. If you look at like a Takahauchi or a Cat, they have big cloth, really nice seats in them. This little vinyl seat, you get a little sweaty sitting in there for a while. It suffices at the end of the day. Getting in and out of it, it is a Mini obviously, but getting in and out of it's a touch tight, I think, to squeeze through the door frame there. Overall, I don't know that I'd be so gung-ho on the cab next time. I think that having shade of the canopy is oftentimes enough. The cab and the AC, it works great. It's really nice, but for the way we use it, I don't think I would be afraid of an open station model. One of the things I want to touch on was the 2-speed on the tracks. I feel that it could stay in high gear longer, like basically work itself longer, and I'm gonna cut in a video showing going up a hill, but basically when you have the toggle behind the blade that puts you in first or second gear, and it automatically takes you from second to first gear. It's like you're pushing up against a pile or if you're going up a hill, but it's very quick to do that. So even if you're steering, if you're going up any kind of a grade, it will basically shift you into first gear, which is pretty slow. I wish that, however, that relief valve was set that kicks it from second to first gear. I wish it would try harder a little bit in second gear. High gear, and then as soon as you start going up this grade, now that's a pretty good grade, kick it into first gear on its own, even though I still have the pedals pushed all the way down. And you'll see, like, even just steering a lot of times will do it, but once I get back up here on top of the hill, eventually it'll kick into high gear. Still not there yet. Okay, not even on this grade. And I feel that it just too easily goes into first gear. See how fast second gear is. But I don't know. Same thing, if you're pushing hard with the blade, it'll want to downshift on you. I like the quick coupler a lot. I think that is handy. Even just taking the bucket off, flipping it around, we've done that. A little concrete job we did. We had to pull slabs out up next to a wall inside of a building, basically flip that around. That makes life really nice. The thumb is very strong. It has the ability to pick up big rocks, boulders. Basically, this machine will lift more weight than our 259D Cat skid steer will. This will pick up a bigger rock. So machine for machine, you can pick up a bigger rock and actually wrestle it into the bucket of the 259 that it can basically push along the ground. So it's very impressive on what it will lift. I put the radio kit in, and I think that, you know, to be Yanmar's fault, that it's at the back of the cab, and if you notice, if the window's up, it's already even that much more on top of it. If you want to change your presets or anything, I mean, they're directly behind your head. So like a lot of other manufacturers, they'll have it somehow tucked in the side console, and I wish they would have done that. But again, it's not the end of the world. The pedals on these machines are very nice to run the travel with your feet. That's no big deal. It's very comfortable. I like the auxiliary controls. Basically, they're rocker switches with your thumb. It's really easy to get used to the thumb. It's quick, but you can be smooth with it because of the proportional control on that hydraulic circuit. I haven't run a mower or anything yet, but I've heard of guys complaining that the main auxiliary circuit, which, because this machine's dual PTO, your main auxiliary circuit is with your left thumb, which are the bigger lines out there, that it has a little flow pressure to be desired compared to other manufacturers. So it doesn't affect me at all what we do with it. But if you're wanting to run a mower, I think I would do some research in what others are capable of running and how they feel about running the mower on a Yanmar. But all in all, I mean, it's a good machine. Oh, the lighting is another thing I would talk about, which I can turn that on here. The only ones from the factory are the one on the cab and the one under the boom. And I think LED lights are optional, and this machine just didn't have that option, but you could obviously swap it out the LED. But they leave a lot to be desired, to say the least, and there's nothing behind you, so when you're backing the machine up in the dark, you always have to be facing, you know, the direction you're going. So I think it's easy enough. We'll add those. That's no big deal. Add a couple lights to it, but from the factory, the lighting is pretty bad, is what I would rate that at. But it's a strong machine. It's quick. It's you know, pretty smooth to run it. You know, as far as all that goes, we haven't had, I shouldn't say any problems. One thing we have noticed, which is not only this machine, I've seen others talking about it, is there's a squeak basically in this main pin for your boom swing. And if you don't just grease the crap out of that pin and even like push down with the bucket so you get the gap the other way in the pin and just keep greasing that thing, it will get this obnoxious squeak in it. So anytime you swing and the boom just kind of goes back and forth, it sounds like a creak. At first I thought there was a structural issue with the boom, but as others have pointed out, I tried switching grease. I switched to Rotella. I think it's, you know, ET. It's basically their outdoor waterproof grease. That seemed to help at first. I was running a Molly based grease, but that didn't cure it ultimately. But basically I've greased this machine every fuel tank, so it's gotten grease, you know, at least every 8 hours. It is definitely not run dry by any means. When you have your first brand new machine ever, you definitely have to take care of it. But yeah, all in all, I think for the price that Yanmar sells them at, they're a great machine. This machine, as it sits, it was right around $58,000 with the 0% financing. If you know, 0%. If you get it, pay cash. It's I think they knock $4,000 or $5,000 off of that. Don't quote me on that, but so that is the finance price. Basically, do you want to keep your money tied up or not? But yeah, it's been a good machine. I think we'll have it for many years. It's not like we use it very hard. It lives inside, which I would think that the red paint over time, if you're keeping it outside, would probably fade to pink. That would be the only negative of the red. I really like the look of the red, and I think we're fine keeping it under a roof, but for a lot of guys keeping it out in the sun, I think that's another thing to consider. But hopefully they use good quality paint and it won't be too much of an issue. But yeah, the basic review is I'd buy it again in a heartbeat. It's been a great machine. I think the size of it is really nice. Basically being a little bigger than a 35, it's very strong, yet it fits into a lot of places. It's not a zero tail swing. I can show what the tail swing looks like. Because this has the optional counterweight, it does stick off the side a little bit. Hi, Tyne. So you can see the overhang, because this much of it is the extra counterweight. So the extra counterweight's giving you about 4 inches more, and in total you have about 8 inches of tail swing over the edge of the track. So far this hasn't been a problem. I've been trying to keep, you know, a close eye on it, trying not to scrape up the counterweight, but when you're in tight quarters, I mean, it is something to be aware of versus a true zero tail swing. The one little scratch on it was a rock in the mud on the track came up and got it. That's why it's right down there on the bottom corner. The blade sticks out quite a ways from the machine, so when you're digging, you got to be very mindful that if you're digging on the blade side, especially if you have it angled, it's very easy to hit the blade with the bucket. So sometimes when you're digging downhill, you need that extra stability of the blade. You just got to be mindful of it. I know I ran into it. I was in a tough spot digging out tree roots, trying to get a stump out of the ground, and it's easy to come up into that blade with the bucket. So that's just something to be mindful of. But that's pretty well it. It's been a really good machine so far, and I would recommend it. So thanks for watching.